Hey, folks. Have you heard that men don't read? They don't read books like this, Demon Ex Machina. You can actually get a free copy of Demon Ex Machina by joining my mailing list, dvspress.com/list. Men can read this book, Sorcerer's Blood. I wrote it live on the air here. King Leper, coming soon. You've heard this little one. Men don't read. Men don't read books. Actually, men read a crap ton. They read a lot of books. They're big readers. But this is a little lie that the publishing industry likes to put out based on people researching, based on them researching who's reading their books. And the answer is not a lot of men are reading their books. And it's because they're not publishing books that men want to read. It's that simple. So men read a lot, but they read books. They don't read the same books as women. This should not be offensive. This should not be surprising. We have genres like romance. That's the biggest genre on the planet for genre fiction is romance. And the readership is predominantly female. There are some men who read it, and there's subgenres in there that are made to appeal to men. But the majority of the readership is female. So if you're writing a romance novel, chances are you're thinking about a female readership, and you're going to be writing with a female readership in mind. That goes the other way too. There's books that have a predominantly male readership. If you're reading science fiction, especially something like hard science fiction, it's predominantly male readership. If you're reading something like Space Marine science fiction, that's predominantly male readership. If you're reading fantasy, classic fantasy is predominantly male. Newer fantasy is predominantly female because it's written for a female audience. They're basically romance novels with a fantasy setting. The main plot is a romance. Now, I have no specific objection to this if you're writing fantasy novels for women to enjoy, and the relationship is very front and center and it's very relationship heavy. That's fine. That's made to appeal to women. The problem is that the response to this reality is that men should be shamed for not liking the crap that women like to read. Right? Why don't men just go around and shame women for reading romance? That's what we end up doing. So I don't really care. Like, if you like the fantasy romance novels or the romance in space novels, if that's your cup of tea, then that's your cup of tea. The thing is that that's not going to appeal to men to the same way that it's going to appeal to women. So what are men actually reading? Well, they're not reading necessarily traditionally published books. They're reading classics. They are reading independently published books. Here are a few independently published books, including this one on how to be productive with your creative impulses, both music and writing. You get that for free if you join my Patreon, linked down below. You get a free book every month, right? So people are reading indie fiction. I know my readership is mostly males. Last time I really dug into it, it was like 65% male, which is, it's male dominated. There's still a fair number of women who read my books, and I get a lot of feedback from women that really like the characters in the books and enjoy the stories. So I know that there's women who enjoy the stories as well, but I'm not writing like hard-nosed war fiction with space bug hunt, which is going to have, more male readership, maybe 90% male readership. And there's nothing wrong with that. Different people like different books. That's my big point. It's the same thing if you're writing fiction that's designed to appeal to one ethnicity over another. If you're writing something that's, made to really appeal to Latin Americans, then are you going to get mad that white people aren't reading it? That tends to be our response, is like, it's the evil misogynist men. I shouldn't say our response. That's the publishing industry's response. That's the women in the publishing industry's response. This evil misogynist men don't want to read our romance novels. Yeah, they don't. Sorry. And you don't want to read the hard sci-fi novels, which is why you took over the publishing industry and started publishing nothing but things that women like. It's because you didn't like the books that men like. This is a really funny way that things have turned out, but that's the way we see it. Last time I did a report on who is in the publishing industry, you find every group is overrepresented except for males, and white males are the most underrepresented group in terms of demographic balance. And the vast majority of publishers are women, and so they're going to probably select, unless they're keen marketers, which a lot of women are. A lot of women know what men want and can actually write books that men want to read. Men can do the same as well. Men can write romance. It's just being good at your craft. But there's a lot of women who, when they're in a position of power, they view the We've talked about this before. The corporation is a power base. You use it to publish the fiction which you think people ought to read, and then you get mad that they don't read it. Shouldn't work that way. So yeah, men are reading indie fiction. They're reading classics. They're reading a lot of nonfiction. They're reading a lot of online things. They're reading lots and lots of articles every day, but they're not reading the New York Times. They're reading Substack articles and Medium articles, and they're paying attention to thought leaders in the online space. No, they're not reading the fantasy romance novels. That's just not what they're into. Now, I write romances in my books. My books will often have romances in them, but they're not usually the A story, right? They're the B story. Maybe the C story is a romance. It could be a very prominent relationship, but chances are there's something else that's really going to drive the plot for my books besides that, which is just going to appeal more to men. This is just a general thing. Women tend to like characters more and character development and that emphasis, and men tend to like plot more. That is, events that happen, complex plots. Women can enjoy mysteries just as much as men. Mysteries are extremely plot heavy. The most popular book of all time is a mystery written by a woman. Women like mysteries just the same as, not the same as men do, but they like mysteries fine. And men like to have romance in their stories. They actually really like romance in their stories. You can look at Japanese light novels that are about like harem romance or something. Like men have romantic fantasies all the time, but they're not the same as women's fantasies, and they don't want them to be articulated in the same way and to proceed the same way as what appeals to women. And that's okay. It's just different demographics are going to want different things out of books, and that should be okay. So the real response should be like, where are the men reading the books? Go and find the men and say, what are you reading? And then look at that and say like, oh, well, they're reading really heady, nonfiction. Maybe we should publish more nonfiction for them. Have more like interesting nonfiction and really pump that side up. Oh, they're reading classics. They're reading sci-fi novels from the 60s and 70s. Well, maybe we need to publish more classic science fiction and fantasy style books. Things that are, more like Robert Heinlein or more like, Anne McCaffrey, a really popular fantasy writer. That's a woman, right? But really popular with men. So it doesn't have to flow like we're in our own little groups and we only write for our own little groups, but maybe write things that are more like Poul Anderson today. Maybe publish more of those books. They're out there. They're just independently published. And because the majority of the market now is independent and not traditionally published, it's just going to be invisible to whenever you hear these things, or here's this demographic breakdown, and here's this study they did, and here's our market research, and men are not reading our books, that kind of thing. Whenever you see that, there's always going to be this invisible category of books that people bought on Amazon or articles that people read off of the major news sites. It's like men aren't reading news. Actually, they're probably more invested in the news than women are on average, but they're not reading the New York Times because they view them as liars, right? Or they view them as not presenting the whole side of things, or just not interesting from an analysis perspective. They want deeper analysis. They want things that bring in more historical analysis. They want something that will synthesize Machiavelli, not just give you a little news story to make you feel bad for a few minutes. So anyway, that's it. Men are reading, and you can read my books if you're a man. Here's one. Actually, women tend to like this one. I actually wrote this one for my wife. So it does feature a romance pretty heavily. This one is pure action and zombies. This one, the romance is at the beginning, but it's an odyssey, So yes, I write adventure fiction. I really love publishing it, and I hope you'll check out some of those books. You can just find them on Amazon. Just search them up. You can search Water of Awakening, and boom, it will come up for you. And don't forget to join my mailing list, dvspress.com/list. You will get a free book for that. I think right now we're still doing Demon Ex Machina, which is a Lovecraftian style science fiction, sci-fi horror little novel. So you can check that out, and I would really appreciate it. Leave me your thoughts down below. Are men not reading? Are you a man that doesn't read, or are you doing something else with your time? Are you just playing video games instead of reading? I think men read quite a bit. They just are not reading the things that are showing up for the women who are complaining about men not reading. And if you're a woman who reads, that's great too. Maybe you read things that are a little outside of the normal thing for women to read. That's good. Maybe you're like, well, I really like romance. That's fine. That's great. Just don't castigate people who aren't into that, right? It'd be like me going, why aren't women listening to death metal? Death metal is great. What's wrong with why are women so misandrous to not listen to Cannibal Corpse? They don't like Cannibal Corpse. It's okay, right? Cannibal Corpse doesn't appeal to them. Just accept that, and that's okay. It's not made to appeal to everybody, and that's fine, as far as I'm concerned. I do like Cannibal Corpse, though. So leave me your thoughts down below, and I'll check you all next time. Have a great, great day.